All right. Well, let's share our screen and get this thing started. So, turnkeys. What brought y'all here, ladies, here to learn about turnkeys? What is it that y'all really wanted to talk about before I get going?
I want to learn the process, so I'm just here to observe and listen.
Okay. I got you. How the hell? Oh, wait, no.
As far as me, I want to know, like, where do you go and search for these properties, and how do you know, kind of like what your description said, like, I want to know, like, how do I choose a property?
Okay. And why in God's green earth can I not share my screen? Oh, this is so frustrating. I want to do that. Sorry, ladies. I'm trying to figure out how to do my screen here. Oh, duh. I'm not the smartest one, but thank God I'm pretty. All right, ladies, can y'all see my screen? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes.
All right, so let's take a look at some houses. Does anybody have one that they want to look at? Okay, so the reason why I wanted to do this is I've got a lot of clients that are looking for turnkey properties right now. They're like, hey, I want something that I can buy, put a renter in it. And I'm going to kind of show y'all how I go about recommending properties. Also, I don't buy a lot of turnkeys. I've bought like 2 of them in my life. So we got to figure out how to identify them and what they look like and all that good stuff. So that's what we are going to do today. Does anybody have a property in mind that they would like to look at, or anything like that? Oh, beautiful. That'll save me some time of having to just go around and look for stuff.
Let me look it up really quick. I had it saved. If it's still available. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, it's 1310 Vienna Street.
Vienna?
Yes.
Vienna. Is it in Sabor?
Yes.
Am I spelling that correctly? Are you looking at what I'm typing?
Vienna Street. It's in Castroville. Let me see. Let me look at what you're spelling, because I pulled it up. You on the MLS?
I'm in Sabor right now.
Okay. So let me give you the MLS number. Maybe that'll help you.
Yeah.
It's 162-5930.
That's 127 Lake Street in Mathis. Oh no, it's not pulling up at all. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
That was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It right up. All right. So let's define what a turnkey means, right?
Okay.
So before we get into all this, let's define what a turnkey means. When I'm talking to my turnkey investors, they tend to be very wealthy individuals that are looking to park their money somewhere and they want to put it in real estate. They typically don't want to manage it. It's usually a lot of doctors, lawyers, things like that just make a big income. They're like, hey, I need to get rid of this money. So for $50,000 or a house like this one, $145,000 for about 30 grand, 35 grand or so, you should be able to get into this property and have a renter paying you money. Now, the question is how much and how do we look at that? So we're gonna analyze this one, and I'm gonna show you one. I'm gonna use a few tools that not everybody uses. So heads up on that, but you can do everything through Sabor. I'm just gonna do it for the sake of time. So the first thing is guys, is a turnkey is a property that does not need any work. Now, in my experience, that's almost impossible. So what I tell my clients is I was like, typically a turnkey is something that needs less than $5,000 worth of work. You may need to still go in there and clean something out or whatever it might be. If it's a property that's in really bad shape, you kind of risk being that slumlord type of person because you don't want to, by definition, a turnkey is something that you don't have to go in to fix. So as I look at this one, it might be a turnkey. It's probably a bit much for a turnkey.
Okay.
In my opinion, because as you can see, this flooring right here, this is cheap vinyl that's all starting to come apart. Obviously, we're going to need new fixtures. I doubt that fan works. You know, this might be a turnkey. You know, is $5,000 worth of cleaning worth it? I don't know, but we'll pretend just so we can use this that there's not a lot of rehab involved. Okay, just so I can use this number without having to go look it up. Because in a minute we'll do a test on how I actually go through all these. So we'll use yours for the sake of this argument. But this one probably would not qualify as a turnkey. It just needs too much work. But first thing I do is I need to know how much it's worth. So I'm assuming turnkeys that don't need work, that the list price is about what it's worth, because that's what it's getting listed at. Dave, do you have a good turnkey that you looked at recently? Because this one's going to be too easy at this number. Oh yeah. Will you give me one out of Roofstock? Sorry, I can just tell you right now that this one's going to be too easy for the example. What did you put in Roofstock recently? We'll do it faster, Dave. Sorry. Roofstock is this website, ladies, that I put some of these houses so that my clients can find them. 5919. Hidden iron circle. All right, let's find this one. All right, here we go. This one will be a little bit, let's see here. Let's go take a look at the house. So first thing I'm looking at is, can I move somebody in there today? This one looks like I could pull that off. Carpet looks pretty new, probably needs some cleaning, maybe some touch-up paint. I think this is perfect for less than $5,000 worth of work. It looks like it has been a rental for quite some time. So this one I think is a little bit better off, and I think this will be a lot more fun to play with. So the first thing I want to do when I'm looking at this is so we've got the value of this. I need to know, does this thing make money as it stands? So what I need to know first and foremost is, how much can I charge in rent for this? So there's two ways to do this. You can obviously go to the listing and classic and all this, but in order to leave this up, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use Propelio, which is one of my softwares that I purchased and I use, but you'll see it's kind of the same thing. 5919 hidden iron. So the first thing I do is I make sure that it's something that is reasonably priced. Overpaying tends to be a real big problem. As you can see, this thing pumps out right away that it's estimated worth 178. And I can come in here and do comps. And as you can see here, it is right here listed for 210. So that's pretty good. And as I look at the comps, here's one that sold for 216, a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. This is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Without going through the whole comps thing with you, that looks like a fair price. So 210 looks like a pretty fair price. I like that. So I think the price is good. The second thing I want to look at is, what can I rent this house for? So when you're doing rental comps, it's a little bit easier than doing the rest of these, but it's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath that's 1,100 square feet. So as I go through here, there's one rental in the past 6 months. That is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. That's 970 square feet. It's a little bit smaller. It's built a few years earlier, and they rented that out for $1,400 a month. So I'm going to use that as my comp. I could probably go a little bit bigger if I wanted to, just because my house is bigger. They rented it for $1.44 a square foot, but for easy numbers, let's leave it at $1,400. And we can take a look and see that this is very similar to the one that I'm looking and thinking about renting. So this one's pretty straightforward here. I like that. So I like it. Let's do $1,400. Let's leave the whole thing together. So there's what you got to do when you're talking to your investors is you have to show them what investors want to know is, what is my return on my investment? Okay, so most homes that you buy that you do not live in, there's a required 20% down. So as we're immediately going through this, we have to figure out what 20% down of our purchase price is. And our purchase price is what, 210? So 20% of 210 is $42,000 plus additional cost. Oh, good Lord, sorry. I use Another software that I get from biggerpockets.com, which is a good little thing. You have to pay for your membership if you want to keep it long term, but I know they'll let you use a few of them for free just to check it out. But this is a great calculator for figuring this stuff out. Sorry, it's my uncle. He's going to have to talk to me later. Sorry, hopefully y'all are still looking at my screen. All right. When you're in here, this is the one I like to use, but as you see, you can figure this out without needing this. It just makes it a lot easier for me. It was 5919 iron circle, right? No. Hidden iron circle. There we go. So then what we're going to do is sometimes it imports a property data. It doesn't work real well. Who cares? All right. So they're asking $210,000 for it and the closing cost. So for quick math, what I always do for closing cost is I figure 1.5%. It's not an exact science at 1.5%. It's just a really good number to kind of remember. You can go through and figure out exactly everything, but it's going to really vary on how the contract's written. Yes, they're going to have to pay their share of the prorated taxes. Yes, they're going to have to pay their share of, whatever it is that you're doing. But 1.5% usually gets you pretty close. So I'm figuring that I'm going to pay $31.50 in closing cost. I will not be rehabbing this. We're just going to buy it and go straight into it. 20% down. Oops. Yeah, 20% down is that's $42,000. It's small on this one. Interest rate, guys, you got to pay attention to your interest rate on these things. I'm noticing most of my investors are getting in at about 6.5% on the high side right now. So you got to pay attention to your interest rates because that varies from day to day. And remember, these are non-owner occupied houses. Usually the lender charges 1 point, which means that's how much they're going to charge to set up your loan. 1 point is the same as a percentage, but it's only charged one time. This interest rate's charged every single year. So 1 point of $210,000 would be $2,100. That's going to be charged by the lender. And our term, let's say they get a 30-year term. So the nice thing about this one is it says the median rent for this property would be $1,457. As you saw earlier, we're probably closer to $1,400. So the two things you need to be really sure of before you get into this is how much the house is worth. Are we on the right spot? Because it's going to have to appraise and all that good stuff. And how much rents are. Once you know those two numbers, it's actually pretty easy. Property taxes, this pulled in the property taxes for me. If you don't remember, you just come over to the MLS listing. Oh, my thing gets stuck from time to time. And where is it? They tell you over here on the left, as you can see right here, $49.89 in taxes. So that works. We'll go ahead and fix that. $49.89 in taxes. Insurance. That's a really interesting game right now when it comes to insurance. Usually for a house around $200,000, you can call an insurance person. They'll get you pretty dialed up. Usually about $200,000 house, you're paying about $150 a month for insurance. For a $300,000 house, it goes up to about $175, so on and so forth. It's about 25 to 50 grand every 100 grand that you put into it. The other thing that these clients want to consider is certain things that also come along with the cost of buying a rental property. So these are all my expenses. I'm going to have to make a loan payment. So that's why it's asking all these questions. I'm going to have income, which is my rent. I'm going to have other expenses, which is going to be my property taxes and my insurance. And there's even more expenses when it comes to this. Repairs and maintenance. That is your day-to-day stuff. That is, I broke the toilet, my door lock isn't working, my whatever, the whenever they call. I tell all of my clients, you want to set aside some money for that rainy day when that stuff happens. Because eventually, if you have a renter, they will break something. A good starting roundabout number on this is maybe about 5%. Set aside $70 a month, just in case they break the toilet or in case they do anything like that. Vacancy is these expenses, your taxes, your insurance, all of that stuff comes whether or not there's somebody living there or not. So we talk a lot about vacancy. If I have my house vacant for 1 month. So if I take 100% and divide it by 12, 1 month's worth of vacancy is 8.3%. So I like to start with that number. So assuming somebody moves out, I'm going to take a month to get it cleaned up, find a new renter, and get them moved in. If during that month, I still have to make my mortgage payment, right? So I'm going to be setting aside $116 a month just in case a vacancy arrives. They move out, I've got to pay the thing, right? Capital expenditures are the big things on the house. That's when I got to come in and drop a mint to fix something. The most prevalent for me is roofs and air conditioners. Sooner or later, the roof runs out and I got to put a new roof on it. Sooner or later, the air conditioner just dies and we got to just replace it. That is a capital expenditure. So a capital expenditure, it really depends on the house on how much I set aside for this. So when I go to look at these kind of things, I'm like, all right, let's take a look. How does that roof look? Well, I don't see any ridge vents. I can't really tell from this distance. I don't see a ridge vent. So I'm going to guess the house is about 10 years old. As I look through this, the stove probably will last a good long time. I doubt they have a picture of the air conditioner. I don't know. On a house like this, let's say we put aside another 5% for capital expenditures. Management fees. You got to ask your client, do you intend to manage this yourself or do you intend to hire a company to do it? Management includes taking the phone calls when things break, making sure they pay the rent, evicting them if they need to, all of that kind of stuff that comes with owning a property. If you outsource it, typically you get charged 10% of your rent for that. So this is where I'm going to start on all of these numbers. When it comes to, we call these soft cost or variable cost. You'll hear that a lot. Because they're not real, but it's nice to set aside the money. So we do consider it an expense, even though it's not truly an expense. The next set of expenses to look at is, am I paying the electricity? Well, no, I'm not going to pay for the electricity. Different places do different things. Do I pay for gas, water, or sewer? These become prevalent if you have a property where they're not, like a multifamily, like if you have a duplex and they're not separately metered. If you don't have your water on 2 separate meters, it's unfair to make one person or the other pay for it. So a lot of times you will work that in. That's what you have to think about if you're doing multifamily. I don't know why I put $20 for HOAs, but we can go in here and look and see if this thing is in an HOA. And as you can see, it is not in an HOA. So there's no HOA fees, excuse me. Garbage, the city, I don't know why everybody wants to talk to me all of a sudden. The city, pays for the garbage that comes with something. So it's not a separate charge. If you live out in the country, you may have to pay somebody, and any other expenses that might come with it. Landscaping, if you're paying to have the yard mowed every month, that's part of it. Exterminators, if you want to put that in there, whatever you want to do. And then I'm not going to get into that. It's going to be a lot. Oops. Let me click here. Why is it not picking up my purchase price? Let's see. Does anybody have any questions about any of that right now?
No.
All right, cool. So then what this shows me, so what we've done is we've come through and we've taken that $1,400 a month and we've spent it just like we would if we actually ran the property. So my mortgage is $1,000 a month. The taxes are $415 and the insurance. So that's the PITI through there. My variable expenses are $400 a month. So when I look at this, if I make $1,400 a month, but I have to spend $2,000 a month to keep that property running, I'm actually losing $623 a month on that cash flow, which becomes this COC return. This is what it stands for, is cash on cash return, is what that means. Cash on cash return on investment is what those letters mean. So what's going to happen is as we go through this, we're going to see that for me to buy this property, I need to come up with $46,000. So I put in $46,000 and I lose $623 a month. If you take 623 and you multiply it by 12 for the year, because that's what these numbers calculate out to, is the year's worth. So 623 times 12 and then divide it by how much cash I put into it. I lose $46,000. I mean, if I put in 46,000, I'm losing 623. Comes a 15%, 16% cash on cash return. So what's nice about this particular calculator, what I really like about it, is it allows me to slide things around if I need to see what I have to do to make this property work. Or we can go back in and edit. So if I want to go back in and edit the details on this one, let's pretend I'm not buying it for 210. Maybe I'm just going to buy it for 200,000. We run the numbers again, push calculate, and here we go. You can set this same thing up in a spreadsheet. It's really not too hard to set up, but all we're doing is saving $100 a month. So for a turnkey property, I don't necessarily like this one. Unless my client is getting a better interest rate. So you need to talk to your client. Let's say maybe they're getting 5.5 right now. See, now they're only losing $469 a month. So that's the game that we're looking for when we play those things. When we're looking for these, we want to make sure we're taking into account these variable expenses. So another interesting thing when I'm talking to my buyers is some people are not concerned with variable expenses. Some of the big guys, these hedge fund guys that are buying a bajillion properties and they got a ton of money, they don't worry about this $400 a month coming to the side. So if I don't worry about that $400 a month, it's almost a break-even proposition. If I go in there and I put in my $44,000, I'm basically getting a zero return if I do not include these variable expenses. So, Colin, that is a lot of work to do just to look at one single property. That is correct. It is a lot of work to do, and there's no way anybody can do this as quickly. Like, you can't sit here and do this on every single property that gets posted in the MLS. So what I do to start off is I use what's called a 1% rule to help find these properties. What does that mean? Well, the 1% rule says, wait, let me see if I can do this. Cancel. No, I'm going to stop that. Hold on. Where am I? Sorry, friends. The 1% rule says that a property should cash flow at 1%. Come on. Oh my goodness. Whatever. Let me erase all this stuff from the last one. How do I erase all this? So if I take the 1% rule, I didn't know how to make a new whiteboard, sorry. And I'm taking a $200,000 property. 1% of $200,000. If I take a $210,000 property and I multiply it by 1%, that is going to come out to $2,100. So the fastest way I do this is I'm burning through properties is I find an area that I like and I find out that, let's say 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses are renting for around $2,000. So once I do that and I find an area of town that I'm looking in, let's see if I can get back to showing you on my screen. I'll show you how I look for all of these other properties. Oh, why does it do this whole countdown thing every time? So when I'm going in, let's find one of my clients that I've got set up on a search, and I'll show you the ones that I'm like, hey, if I've got a minute, we'll find Dave Pierce. I know. So we're going to go in, we're going to find Sabor Singles right here. Yeah, show me the updates from the last run. Gotcha. I want to map the results though. There was nothing since the last run. Good Lord. Don't worry about it. I got it. Why is it saying it's showing me 1 of 60 listings? What is going on? Oh, Christ. Find all matches. Let's go. I have no idea why it's not showing me any properties. Let's try Fort Armando. See, it says right here at the top, it's supposed to show me 18 properties, and of course it's not showing me any. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now it's showing me properties. All right, so I know everything up in this area, this neck of the woods is where one of my clients is looking for properties. As I go around and I look at this, here's a 3-2 that is $157,000. I know that 3-2s up on the northeast side are going to rent for more than $1,500 a month. This one's really interesting. So if I'm looking for a turnkey, hey, I think it's pretty clean. I think you can get this thing ready to go for more than $5,000 or less than $5,000. But I notice that this is a trailer in a trailer park. So that's going to be really interesting, really quick. And here's why, because trailer parks tend to charge lot rent. So I need to know more about that. If not, I could rent a 3-2 all day long for $1,500. I know I can. The sale includes the land that the home sits on. These parcels are not owned by the San Pedro Mobile Home Park. Home is being sold as is. So it does include the land. So this one right here, this would be one that I'd be worth putting through the calculator, because I know I can rent this out for somewhere around there. And knowing I can rent these things for about that much is pretty good. So this one, $2,000. Here's another one that I think is a really good fit. Turnkey, I can tell you right now, I think I could rent this out all day long for $2,000. If I need to double check my numbers on that, I just come into my little thing, or I just search the MLS. I use my MLS search to find out if that's going to work or not. 15005 Winter View. Oops. So the other reason I like using this is because I can look in the MLS and I can search comps somewhere else. All right, 3-2 single family houses, $2,000 a month. So right here, Glen Breeze, this one's over in the Green Breeze, sorry. That's almost an identical house. 3-2, 1,890 square feet. Oh, mine's 3-2, 964 square feet. So we're gonna have a problem with that. Here's one for 1,600 that rented for 1,795. Might have a hard time with this one. So as you can see, everything's renting for roughly $1 a square foot, which means mine should rent for $1,000, but it is a 3-2. I think $1,500 might be a fair thing. You really got to do some rental analysis and find out. I might go further back. I might check out and see what is going on with all of this around in the area. Yeah, see, here's a lot of them that are renting for $1,400 a month. That's 1,100 square feet. So that's a lot closer. So I do think I can get to $1,500 a month, because this one rented last September. So I think I could get up there. So that's a good one to push out right there. I'd run my little calculator. I'd print the sheet out that looks like this, or the one that y'all saw a minute ago, but it should have more impressive numbers. And we go from there. Let me show y'all one that has impressive numbers. Yeah, this one on commercial is really good. So here's what one with impressive numbers would look like. He's trying to sell this thing for $215. It's an off-market deal. If y'all have got anybody, please bring them to me. It is a duplex, and he has contracts for each side of it renting for $1,350. So he gets $2,700 a month in tax, and he gets $2,700 a month in income. We had the vacancy really low because he's pretty sure he can keep it out. Management fee was still 10%. Purchase price, loan amount, 30 years, interest rate at 6%. It breaks the whole thing down for me. And it's telling me if you buy this thing for $215,000, you're going to make $739 a month, or you're going to make an 18.5% return, which, guys, that's better than the stock market can produce. But you're going to need to come up with 50 grand, more or less. If your clients are turnkey investors, they should be able to run a deeper analysis on their own. But it's kind of nice to be able to provide them this because they don't have to think as much, which I always really, really like. So this is an example of what a really good one looks like. And if I can say one last thing that will help, if you have a house that breaks even or it's really, really close, maybe you're only losing like $50 a month. I always tell everybody you can incorporate what it would look like if I decide, oh, they don't have the rental growth. I can add rental growth in here and say, hey, look, every month I'm gonna increase, or every year I'm gonna increase the rent by 10%. So my cash flow is actually gonna increase year to year. Yeah, I think I did work this in here, where my cash flow will increase. So another way to look at it. So if somebody's got something that's really close, you can tell them, hey, look, man, yeah, you're gonna break even this year, but next year you can raise the rent $100 and you're gonna be making $1,200 a year. And then the next year you do it again, and so on and so forth. So any questions? I felt like that was kind of a very ad hoc way of looking at it, but I really like this one. I think if I can get that price down a little bit, check out the interest rates, not too far off. This is the only thing that makes me nervous. Sold as is, tells me there might be a problem, but neither here nor there. Need to look at the seller's disclosures. That's for another day. So questions, comments, concerns from anybody that's still listening to me ramble? Mia, you good? Does that make perfect sense? Does the 1% rule kind of help you?
Yeah, I do want to go in and play with both of those websites, maybe. Because I know like the property that I was looking at in Castroville, I wanted to, of course, flip it or whatever, but I was thinking about maybe possibly Airbnb-ing it, but I have to run numbers on that.
Okay, let's talk about that one right there, right? That's a really good question, right? So I don't know why this thing is so far served in. That one. Yeah, okay, so this one right here.
Uh-huh.
Let's take a look. So 1310 Vienna. Oh, come on. 1310. And there it is. See, it says it's 209. I'd have to walk this property to tell me if it's in really good shape or bad shape. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath that is 1,200 square feet. All right, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 1,200 square feet. Let's see what else is sold over there. 3232. This one's a lot bigger. This one's a lot bigger. For simplicity's sake, I'm not going to get into the whole how to appraise one thing right now. So I'm just going to add the 232s. Assume that they look really good when they're done. Of course, the photo link is broken on that one. And that is a really new house built in 1988, where mine was built in 75. So I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. Let's say the house is worth $200,000 after I'm done with it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And here's why. Let me try doing it this way. This is probably better. Here's why I like that. So I'm going to add a new note. So if it's worth $200,000 as an ARV.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why is it? Sorry.
It's okay. I know what it means. Mm-hmm.
Okay, whatever. If my ARV is $200,000, I know that a bank will lend to me roughly 75%. Depends on the bank or whatever it is. So 75% of that is $150,000. So I'd like to be into this house for $150,000 or less. Well, they're asking $150,000. Interesting. So what I'm going to assume, let's say I'm going to go ahead. This one looks like almost more of a burr to me. If I take, let's say I take an offer of 140 and I put 10 grand in cleaning it up. So I'm still into it for 150. But that 10 grand makes it look like a $200,000 house. I don't know the property that well. A lot of people can go, oh, what about this and the roof? And I don't know. But let's make the assumption that this 10 grand will make the house look like 150. I can now get a 75% loan and I'm basically a break even on that. That right there for me makes it a BRRRR with those numbers.
Mhm.
Now, the next question I have is can I pay off $150,000 loan with with the rents that I could get in this area?
Mhm.
So I know the house is probably worth 200. What are these things renting for? So our property is a 3-2 single family detached. Yeah, that's 1,200 square feet. Well, the only thing that's rented around here is a manufactured home. Oh, they just dropped the price. It hasn't even rented yet. There's not going to be a whole lot of rental data out there. Let's see what we got.
No,
Over the
because
past-
it's a small town.
It's Castroville. Yeah, I know. Well, let's take this as the. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty clean mobile home. It's been on the market for 62 days at $950, but they're renting out for $130 a square foot. So if it's $130 a square foot, well, where's my calculator? How do I not? Hold on.
1560.
1560. There you go. So if we're at 1560, thank you for that. If I can rent this thing for $1,560 a month, that is almost exactly 1%. Now, guys, the 1% rule is a guideline. It is not like it doesn't meet the 1% rule. I'm not looking it up. If you're at 0.75%, sometimes that works out. If you're at 1.5%, sometimes that doesn't work. It's really weird, but it's a good starting point. If it's somewhere near 1%,
Yeah.
then I'll look at it. Either side, just somewhere near 1% makes me happy. So for 1560, I do that. Now, to your point though, which I really like that you brought up, what if I Airbnb'd it? There is a website, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's AirDNA, that's what it is. So Airbnb, AirDNA. So if you go to AirDNA, they'll let you do a couple of these before they kick you off. I think you can pay for it, but if you're really into Airbnbs and you got a client, it might be worth paying for it. 1310 Vienna Street. All right, let's just do Castroville, Texas. Let's see what things are renting for Airbnb wise in Castroville. So most of them are coming through Airbnb, not VRBO, blah, blah, blah. Or this is where they're listed, I guess. And I think in here, it'll tell you the average daily rate is 165. Average occupancy is 46%. So if I take 165 and I multiply it by 30 days in a month, I get $5,000. If I multiply that by 46%, it's $2,277. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's it. That's perfect. $2,277. Well, Airbnbs are a little bit different. I don't think that's enough to cover that mortgage because you have hotel occupancy tax that you have to pay to the city, which you don't have to do on long-term rentals. Your property management fee tends to be closer to 25% versus the 10% I spoke of earlier. There's just additional expenses. Now you can pass that on to the end client. You can not do whatever you want, but it's pretty close. So to answer your question, well, it says right here that the average annual revenue is $1,800 a month. So if you think you can rent it for the month for $1,560 or $1,800 if you Airbnb'd it, I would do a long-term rental because I don't think that extra $300 a month is worth me worrying about it every single time and paying twice the management fee and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, I was trying to figure out like rental or Airbnb, but just because they have the river there, like down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but what I was thinking, I was trying to figure out which route to take because at some point, what I'm trying to do is rent it short term you know, for a little bit, or Airbnb it. And then later, once my 20-year-old is ready to move out, I want him kind of in our area. And so I wanted to kind of pass it along to him.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I
mean,
wouldn't rent it forever, you know what I mean? But I figured if I can get it at a good price, keep it going for a little bit, and then later on hand it down.
the one thing I think is interesting about Castroville is how much it's growing. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
yeah, I would love to see something, you know, really grow. And then, like, again, guys, this is beyond the scope of this, but you can really get in here and look at every single thing that's available and what it rents for, what all this kind of stuff. But I think eventually, like, you gotta pay for, you know, your market compare, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah. And I know Castroville can, like, some of those houses are like, oh my gosh, expensive. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, it's the place to be, man.
yeah. And then, so like, that's where I've kind of been looking, is like Castroville, Lacoste, Natalia, Area Idle. So any of those little small towns, but it's hard to say like it'll be a good Airbnb because it's such a small town.
Yeah,
so that's-
Lacoste is even smaller.
Yeah, Lacoste, like
Tiny
you
little
just,
town.
you blink and you're out of it. Yeah.
I was just in Lacoste the other day. But yeah, so that's, I mean, that's what I'm looking for when I do turnkey rentals.
Okay.
Is I'll go to AirDNA, see about how much I can make there. I'll go to, you know, I'll check my comps. I'll find out how much I can rent them for, and then it's just math after that. But a good way to start is just watching the 1%. Know an area, know what you can rent stuff for, and that's why, guys, you don't see many, you know, $500,000 houses for rent, because 1% of
Right.
$500,000 is $5,000 in rent.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's, if the house is old enough and you've got an old loan on it or whatever, it might make sense. But there's a myriad of ways to do it. But I would tell you the first thing you would do for your clients is go through look at all the 1% ones, narrow it down to the ones that kind of get close to the 1%, go sit down, analyze all those, and then send them the ones that turn back the best. And ask your client, hey, what kind of vacancy rates do you like to account for? What kind of maintenance numbers do you like to account for? Do you account for them? Do you care? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it's just sitting down and cranking them out, man. That's the boring part of real estate investing, is you got to run through a bunch of properties to find one that makes any sense.
Okay.
So, well, that's all I got. And as you know, I was running late, so I haven't eaten lunch yet, and I'm going to go eat lunch.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Abs-
I'll go on there and look at all that stuff. You said AirDNA, right? Was that last?
AirDNA, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
I might need to get a subscription to that. Yeah, there you go. AirDNA.co.
All righty. All right. I appreciate it.
All right, I'll be good.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.